Extra extra, read all about it! Welcome to the Empires Recap, and today we will be going over the chaos and drama of our somewhat respected rulers.
Scott's not just a pretty face, his fire farm is pretty too. His goal this episode is magic, so of course he has to talk to the local witch about getting some mangrove wood for their magical properties. He's angered a witch before and it didn't end well for him, and everyone likes gifts, right? However, on his way he gets slightly lost before his years of training come in. He eventually spots her neck of the woods, where they trade. He mentions offhand that she is nicer than most witches he's known, and notes sausage magical chickens are a scam, as he can't see a magical glow. Totally not unnerving at all. What do you know, you colorful little man? Arriving back in Chromia, now he's the one being visited. Fwhip drops by on a weird boar thing. Princess Gem has already built a trade road, and Lizzie is perfectly normal and nice. They all want dyes, and Scott is happy to oblige. It is the kingdom to die for, after all.
How could I serve you in dying for me today?
He is finally allowed to time-lapse his enchanting build without interruption from his new neighbors. He mentions building floating islands, even though they're annoying, so he can travel between the Empire easily, and gets a lucky first enchant on his pickaxe. Someone else who is enchanting, in more ways than one, is Gem.
Princess Gem gets a visit from Goblin Fwhip looking for some honeycomb. After the trade, Gem determines she needs a better way for the Empire's inland to find her and her empire. She makes a road all the way to her closest neighbour, Scott. She uses the new trade route to set up a deal with the man at the end of it. They trade dyes and honeycomb, and Gem tells us she wants to export food. She will need some help with the food production though.
Nobody gets to ask me any questions about what I'm doing in my basement. None, okay? None.
After bringing some villagers up to her empire, she sets up a small villager breeder and, not without some struggle, creates some automatic farms to be harvested by her villagers. She tests her farm and comes back to good production, and also possibly mice. Or another emperor, you never know.
I think we have mice. But also, I think I've been visited by somebody.
And then we watch Gem update her social tree to show her 4 alliances. The local god has been stepping on her toes with his bee farm. She writes Joel down as an enemy, and goes for a walk to leave a vaguely threatening sign at his base. She's very good at vague threats, I've noticed. Her next mission is to give all her new workers a place to live. She also decides to get some trading ready, but wants to keep the cozy farm vibe, creating a small market area with some villagers from her basement. It's level 30 so she can try enchanting a new pickaxe with fortune, before noticing someone has been to her lighthouse and is messing with the lapis. It's the mice, I'm sure. Speaking of mice and other critters, Lizzie
finally has a name for her city. It's called Critter City, and her empire is called Animalia. She decides to take inspiration from Stardew Valley and collect different items to make bundles in her now fully decorated community center. Then it's time for the meeting of animals, which doesn't go over very well, as expected with all the animals. Lizzie getting struck by lightning did not add a good omen either. After finishing collecting wood and plants, a strange cod trail appears at her door. I wonder where it leads. I wonder who has so much fish.
Pirate Joe sets out to set up a guardian farm. Why search for treasure when customers can bring it right to you? He needs a lot of sand, and not the kind you find on the beach, so it's nether time, once he gets the blasted portal working.
Why? Why no work?
Skeletron's army has snuck their way into the fortress, but Joey makes it out unscathed, or at least alive. He clears his head by clearing out the sandbar, cutting off his lagoon from the ocean. To take on the Guardians, though, Joey might need a little magical assistance. Shelby is happy to help him out, in exchange for a few slightly cursed emeralds, and Joey paddles out a raft right off the edge of the temple. The fight is long and costs him his end sword, but finally the Elder Guardians are vanquished and the real farm building can begin.
That's right.
Right after a quick trip back to the Nether to help make some invisibility potions. No one ever said working with Guardians was easy, but once he gets it going, Joey takes more than a little joy in the farm's function. It's even more effective once he gets a fresh elytra from Sausage to run the farm from up high. Maybe a little too effective.
We've gone too far. Oh no. Oh, this is bad.
With all this product, Joey needs a place to sell it, and he's got just the design in mind. A quaint little shop with just enough room for all the goods. Pricing is hard when there's no universal currency yet, but that's not too important for his first guess. As thanks for the elytra upgrade and helping to christen his ship the Ender Pearl, Joey lets Sausage have his first stack of anything free. And Joey's not out of marketing tricks yet. A trail of fish conveniently lures Lizzie all the way from her empire to the shop. How totally suspicious and coincidental. His luck falls short when he finds she didn't bring any money with her, and after all is said and done, they essentially trade the fish she found for a stack of prismarine. Maybe it's not just the emeralds that were cursed.
At the beginning of this episode, Miss Witch has her very first customer. Pirate Joe has requested Shelby make him some potions for his adventure, even though his shop isn't open yet. Mythical Sausage then stops on by while Shelby is on an adventure, and requests she use her magic to remove the cooldown from his goat horn. She tells him a small lie, and they come to an agreement to allow him to collect some mud for a build. He drops on by later to ask for potion making services, while Shelby is fascinated by his ender chest. He wants some potions to heal the undead, and demands to see the frogs as she works. She finds a villager head in her doorway after he leaves, and is then visited by a colourful man from Chromia, who wants some mangrove and gives her some dye in exchange.
Watch out for the treetops, the creepers blend in, the fog will play tricks on you, you might hear voices, I think that it's fine.
Good to know.
She then goes to Nether to work on her new blaze farm. Shelby shows us the perilous journey of finishing the project, but now our very own witch has finished her farm. Catherine comes to visit and gives her her new witch hat. Shelby gives her an IOU, a dangerous, dangerous thing. For Catherine's wonderful work on the hat, and also because Shelby is broke. On the opposite end of the spectrum, someone who very much isn't broke is Fwhip, after all the trading he's been doing. Speaking of which, Fwhip trades with Gem, Sausage, and Lizzie before heading back to his goblin cave. He then heads over to Joel's base and fixes up the secret tunnel so he can get in and out easier. Fwhip then runs around on his little goblin feet and collects resources for a pig pen. This includes corralling the pigs into his cave and then losing a few in the process. After putting the pigs in their enclosure, he builds up a magnificent little barn, connecting it to the rest of the cave via minecarts. After feeding them for a bit, he finds that some of them have grown to be massive. After finishing the pig pen, he decides to build another tunnel to Catherine's base. Having run out of wheat to make mud bricks, Fwhip heads over to Scott's base and totally doesn't torture him to get him to give him wheat. After all these shenanigans, he goes ahead and builds a cobblestone generator. But why a cobblestone generator? Because he's going to use the stone to get emeralds from stonemasons. He builds the stonemasons a nice little shop so they can be out of harm's way, or zombies' way. After finishing the build, he heads over to Shovel's base in search of potions. A mishap at the brewery shop leaves Fwhip with massive goblin ears and excellent hearing. Finally, he sends one of his large boars to be an ambassador with Lizzie, before retreating back to his cave and ending his episode.
Back above ground, Catherine notices some paw prints left behind from when Lizzie scurried away from their trade deal. Catherine has declared her main export to be tailoring, handing out wool to Lizzie and a hat to Shelby. In order to make these deals, she needed to set up some farms. A sheep square, a spider spawner, and
The Cow Crusher 5000!
she also manages to get to the end, and the land of the law to grab some terracotta. Hopefully Jimmy isn't too mad. She builds her shop, known as Dreamy Designs, using the blocks she gathered from her deals in exploration, and is now open for business.
Pixlriffs has a frog-like farm to set up in a remote basalt delta with the help of that beacon he made. He takes the delta from fires and spires to flat and splat. Hopefully, that's the sound of magma cubes falling to their eventual freeze and frog demise. And frogs he gets, breeding in all temperatures to get the 3 different colors, with an Easter egg for his survival guide viewers. They travel a long way to become eternally trapped at work, but Pix thinks they'll be just fine.
In hell, but somehow also in paradise.
He loses a few brave frogs to the local ghasts, but there's still enough to start producing more lights than he can keep to himself. Time to start selling. Pix stops in at dawn to offer the princess some golden frog lights for golden honeycomb, though his next meeting is not a house call, more of a loony call. When Pix sees the deep slate fossil that the sheriff nearly destroyed, the historian in him comes out full force, even offering his own diamonds to replace the ores that had been removed. For a man with no character, he does have a labeled preservation kit handy.
Not to get all Indiana Jones on you, but this does belong in a museum.
He starts his episode by showing off his progress before the big announcement of his new sheriff's badge. He declares he wants a cat as his new deputy because, naturally, they are better than humans. The new deputy is Norman, his IRL cat. Joel comes by and starts messing with the law, which could mark the beginnings of an enemy for Tumbletown. He then shows another clip of his find of a super rare diamond fossil. His friends drag him for wanting to break it down. Why would someone break a super rare structure like that? He meets up with Pixlriffs to have a look at it. He is the Empire of the past, after all. Pix suggests he might need to see a witch about hexes after he learns Jimmy took all the diamonds out of it, just in case. They spend some time preserving the fossil to be as pristine as it originally was.
And then hopefully whatever primeval forces are manifest in this place will not get very mad at you and want to claim your soul.
Afterwards, we follow him back to Tumbletown, where he time-lapses his creation of his mine entrance, and we discover Katherine has visited the mesa for some terracotta. Then it is time to adventure to look for Deputy Norman. He kills some salmon and tames his new cat. Everyone better respect the sheriff and his new deputy. Respecting the deputy may come at a price, but someone doesn't seem to be too worried. Joel has been defending his honor and his tallness.
Joel is tall. Joel is tall. Joel is tall. Joel is tall.
Joel returns to find that their child is back, with yet another gift from Sausage. This week, he is finally ready to build a starter house. A short material gathering montage later, he builds the island his house is to rest upon, connecting it to his nether portal.
Ugh! Now this one has been lawed too.
Our 11-foot tall god takes a break, heading over to Catherine to try and reel her to death, though it takes a few tries for him to successfully hook her and fling her to her death. Another interesting material gathering montage, a creeper explosion, another murder attempt on a fellow emperor, and a elytra drop-off later, he finishes his house atop a new island, in which he dubs his white style. To finish the build-off, he lures some trees into existence, then heads off to drop the child off at Sausage's place. Sausage begins this week by collecting some goat horns. He heads back to his base to find no wax to keep his copper blocks from oxidizing. He heads over to Dawn, where Jem the beekeeper is. He talks to her for a bit and trades one of his goat horns for some wax. After heading back home, he finally gets ready to cure some villagers. To do this though, he needs potions, and where else to get them other than Shelby the witch? Heading over to her shop, he buys some weakness potions. While heading home, he gets sidetracked and steals some tadpoles from the swamp. After getting home, he finds Joel has returned their child with a Protection 3 book. He returns the Shulker child back to Joel, along with an Unbreaking 3 book. He then starts on a banner shop, putting his cured villager in there and asks them to make a banner for the sanctuary. Sausage places the banner at his home, then heads down to the docks. He spots a paper along with his scouting parrot's remains floating in the water. Sausage grabs the paper and finds there's coordinates written down on it. He travels out to the coords and finds a small house. Inside he finds Bubbles? Eddie? Some magic dust? What a surprise! After bringing them home, he plants the magic in a small clearing behind his home. He then starts gathering resources, and doing some trading with other empires, he builds up his first official shop, the Lumber Mill. After completing the build and stocking it up, he finds Joel has already returned the child, this time with a cinnamon roll? Sausage returns the child back to Joel again, and leaves him with some fireworks.
And with that, join us next week for more chaos and shenanigans. Thank you for watching, liking and subscribing, and extra thanks to everyone helping out with the project. Check them all out down below.